Hey Evan, how you doing?
Hey everyone. Hey Louis. It's Evan Kirstel here, just live streaming with some of my favorite followers and marketing gurus. Today I have Louis Gudema, another marketing extraordinaire here in the Boston area. Louis, how are you?
Doing great, Evan. It's so good to talk to you again. It's been too long.
It's been too long. Of course, we haven't seen each other in person. We used to go out to all kinds of interesting events around Boston on boats and cocktail hours. And sadly, none of that lately. But what have you been up to? What's new with Louis?
A lot of what I've been doing is working as a fractional CMO with B2B tech companies, or a marketing strategist as a short-term gig to help them work out their approach. A lot of times B2B tech companies, especially startups or growth stage ones, are challenged to understand their customer, to understand what message is going to resonate with them, how to reach them, how to create a constant presence with them. And so that's the kind of work that I've been doing. And it's actually very interesting work.
It is indeed. And you wrote the book on marketing, or I should say a book, which
No,
I,
the book. It's the only book. I looked
it's
last
the
time
only
I
book.
checked. It's the only book on marketing.
Bullseye Marketing, great title. I loved the book. This is what, 2, 3 years out,
Yeah,
but
3 years.
I'm guessing it's as relevant as then. And I mainly liked it because I was in it. I was mentioned specifically in the book. No, but in all seriousness, how, in your opinion, has the book held up through the pandemic and some of your themes and ideas around bullseye marketing?
I think it's held up very well. A few people. It's funny you mentioned why you liked it because you were in it. Douglas Burdett, who hosts the Marketing Book Podcast, which is a terrific podcast. He when he was interviewing me said he thought it was a terrific book until he got to the mention of him, and then he was worried about the credibility. But I think it's held up well. Basically the issue that Bullseye Marketing addresses is that there's so many ways now to reach people. There's dozens of channels, whereas 25 or 30 years ago there were only 5 or 6 ways you could reach a customer. And now you've got email and social media and Google Ads and Facebook and paid social and LinkedIn and on and on. And how to use them all together. And and so for a lot of executives and a lot of business people, they get so many messages from vendors about, oh, you have to do this. Scott Brinker, his famous graphic now shows over 8,000 marketing software companies. And so they're constantly getting approached by this. And, understandably, they don't know who to listen to. So, the person they should listen to is me, because what I do is cut it into 3 phases. So I'm kind of channel agnostic. I talk about more than 20 channels in the book. And I talk about what are the things you need to do in phase one to create a foundation for your marketing that so many companies have not done in terms of, understanding your customer, getting the messages right, getting the website set up, having conversion opportunities and not just, talking about yourself and so forth. And then in the second phase, how to find out the companies that are in market now who want to buy what you want to do, what we call using intent data. And then when you've built that foundation and gotten results and can prove, that you're doing something, then work on building your brand and long-term awareness. Because in fact, what so many studies have shown, and which is a big thing that I'm talking about these days, I'm actually giving a talk on it Wednesday for the New England Direct Marketing Association, is how important and how much bigger, how much faster companies grow with a strong brand and brand marketing if they don't just focus on direct response marketing. Because in the B2B space, for almost every vendor, 95% of your customers are not looking to buy from you right now. But they may be looking in 6 months or a year or 2 years, and you got to be top of mind. And if you are at that point, you may have a non-competitive situation. You may be the only company they talk to, or just one of two. And so the Bullseye Marketing framework of those three phases it still is very valuable for people, and I think it's kind of an evergreen approach.
Yeah, that's such a great point, and I love the focus on B2B marketing in your work and your client work in particular. And of course, in B2B, we borrow from B2C marketing tactics, techniques, approaches. But what else is different about B2B marketing? What's unique that needs to be addressed in a different way from traditional consumer-based approaches?
Well, I think it's not so much that it has to be addressed differently, is that people don't understand how much it has to be addressed similarly. So, two factors. The biggest multiplier of your marketing is the size of your company, is its market presence. So, like big brands just have a huge advantage over startups and small companies because if they do X amount of marketing, they get a lot more impact from it than a small company would.
Yeah, no one ever got fired from buying from IBM. The old joke goes. Yeah.
Yeah, and now that would be Google or someone. But so how do you, if you're a smaller mid-sized company and you're competing against these huge companies who have that brand advantage, how do you compete against them? The second biggest multiplier is creativity. And so the big problem that so many B2B tech companies have is they just talk about their product. And they just say, we got the best product. You got to see our product. It's got 17 features that are wonderful. Let me list all 17 for you. And this is not what is going to build your long-term brand and emotional connection with your customers. And, P&G understands that. Consumer companies understand that. And B2B companies have to be more like consumer companies in spending a significant, not all, but a significant part of their marketing budget in creating, great creative and getting it out there that's going to resonate. And the amazing thing, Evan, I have was working with a company, and I created what I called the 24-second commercial. It's a 24-second video that was all emotion driven. It hardly mentioned the product at all. Very briefly at the end. And that piece actually got a 600% higher response rate than all of the product led messages that we were using. And it continued even a year later, it was getting like a 300% higher response rate.
Wow.
So, and it cost $500. It cost me almost nothing to produce. And so having a strong emotional message that actually grabs people, that people will listen to, because the biggest problem with your marketing is people are just not going to pay attention to it. If no one, watches your ad, if no one reads your ad, it's going to have zero impact. So the first thing you have to do is create some really great creative and engage people. And that can cut across a lot of things. That can be true of ebooks and blog posts and not just 24-second commercials.
Interesting. So your talk here I see is about the balance between direct and brand marketing and getting that balance right. I see it's tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Wednesday.
Wednesday at 10 a.m. So give us a peek on some of the ideas behind your talk. What is involved in getting the balance right?
Well, the first thing to understand, and if people want to register for it, they can go to nedma.com, nedma.com, and you'll see right in the navigation there's a link for webinar 922. So the first thing to understand is that you do have to get this balance because because of the 8,000 marketing software programs out there, and they all have analytics and they all provide you with a ton of data. The problem is that marketers have become data geeks, data jocks, and they've lost sense of that connection to the customer, that's their primary mission, creating emotional connections, that's their primary mission. And And CEOs are partly responsible for this because there's like, what have you done for me this month? What have you done for me this quarter? If you can't show the leads that you've produced this quarter, it's not, I don't want to spend dollars on it. So you got to, so what I draw on in my talk is research that's come out in the last 10 years, which has really transformed marketing thought leadership, but not as much as it should. And it's research from England, from the UK, from the US, from Australia, across thousands and thousands of campaigns. So we've never had this before. We've had our own data, or we've had a few case studies, but now we actually have data from thousands of campaigns that shows that you have to have, for the best long-term growth, you have to have this balance between direct response, lead generation programs, and long-term brand building and awareness programs.
So you're saying we all have to be madmen again? Is that what I'm going to have to turn into?
Uh,
And smoke a cigarette in a smoke-filled boardroom?
no, just the Scotch will do.
Okay, well, Scotch is good.
You don't need the cigarettes or the cigars, but I'm just on the Glenlivet side.
Okay.
I'm on team Glenlivet here.
So we've seen a massive shift to digital through the pandemic. I've been busier than I've ever been. What about event marketing? You've done a lot of events over the years, small, intimate get-togethers, gatherings, and larger events. Are we going to go back to the old marketing and networking events, or is it going to be hybrid, or are those days really behind us and the ROI just isn't there?
I think people want to be with people. And my daughter has, for a number of years been an event marketer for, some prominent companies. And I've seen great results from events. And in the short term, we thought by this fall, 6 months ago, we were like, okay, are we going to go in person again by September? And then Delta hit.
Right.
So, unfortunately, that threw things, for a loop. But I think that if we can get, a high enough vaccination rate and we can get these cases down and, organizations take the right precautions, obviously none of us are good at predicting the future. But yeah, we got to get back to in person.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I was looking through a few of your previous posts, and this struck me as pretty interesting. You're a prolific writer, and you say that some people try too hard to sound sophisticated with their business writing, talk like you speak, and use short words. I think I try too hard. Any other tips or tricks for writers, aspiring authors who want to write their first book?
Well, if you want to be a good writer, the thing to do is write. Uh,
It's
you
so
know,
simple.
well, practice is critical. You look at like the biography of any great author, an Arthur C. Clarke or whoever it may be, and you know, they started when they were a teenager and they just kept writing and writing and reading and reading. And they just got better and better. And I think that if you do want to be a writer, you do need empathy. You do need to be thinking about who's your audience and what are they interested in. Again, I was working with a company recently and they had a lot of content and I helped them refocus some of it because it just wasn't customer centric. It was very
Hmm.
product centric. Um, and, I'm so the thing when you're writing marketing writing is, what's the hook? What's the thing the customer cares about? You know, um, and how can you hit that in the first few sentences and draw them in an interesting way? And probably how can you do 3 points in your piece? Because people won't remember more than 3 points. So if you can organize around 3 points and just keep hammering those, that they come away with them. Yeah,
I love it.
one thing I always am telling my clients to do is to take a look at the talks that Steve Jobs gave for product introductions. Look at his
Classic.
video. They're on YouTube, and you can see his introduction of the iPhone, or his introduction of other products. The iPhone is a great one. And, they are just brilliant, brilliant presentations. And one of the things you see on those is how very few words there are on his slides.
Loved it. Yeah.
No bullet points. A picture and a few words, if any. And it's what I try to do when I'm giving a talk, like with my NEDMA talk on Wednesday. Is I don't want people reading the slide while I'm talking. I want them listening to me and just getting some reinforcement from the visual.
Great point. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS, the old rule of thumb.
Yeah,
Um, so,
absolutely.
so finally, you're a fractional head of marketing. Describe that role, and is that a new phenomenon in marketing? Hiring a part-time CMO versus a full-time CMO, and how does that work with clients?
I think it works very well for small and mid-sized companies. And I've been working with startups and growth stage companies, B2B tech companies, and they don't have the budget or, frankly, the need for a full-time person. Because in addition to what my fee, they need to have enough budget for everything that we do, for buying media time, for running webinars, for, going to events and doing creative and developing ebooks and all those sorts of things. And so when I'm the fractional CMO, usually the first month or two, we're looking at everything they're doing and have done. And usually they haven't done nearly enough. And developing a marketing strategy, talking to their customers. What do their customers care about? What is their messaging? How are we going to update their website to get that across? What kind of conversion opportunities are we going to have on the website, conversion experiences and so forth? What's their email list? How can we grow that? Because email is such an incredible tool still for marketing. And then what's their marketing technology? Do they have a CRM even? Do they have a marketing automation program? Do they have the right staff? Do we need people part-time, full-time?
Social media, hint, hint.
Oh yeah. So I told you there were an awful lot of options here,
There's a
Evan.
lot of options. A lot of options.
So the first month or two, we really develop a whole strategy and like 6-month plan. And if they're new to marketing, a lot of that is experimentation. And the best clients have to have an attitude of experimentation. They have to know that we're going to do a lot of things, and some of them are going to be great successes, and some are going to be failures. And, you're going to learn from the failures. And then we get into executing. And, as you can see from my book, I have a lot of experience on the execution level, on the operational level of marketing. I ran an award-winning agency for a dozen years. And so I may oversee, say, their Google Ads program or their social media until they get to a certain size. And then we know, okay, it's getting to the point where we need someone else who just is expert on that area to come in and start working on it. And, I'll work with them on some of the creative as well. For one client, I developed like 20 pieces of content in about 6 weeks. Uh, and so usually it takes a couple months to get things, planned and mapped out, maybe a month to put everything in place. And by the months 3 through 6, things are going to get out there and you should start to see some results. And that's been pretty effective for the companies that I work with. And usually I'll work with them about a particular company about 1/3 time I may start out, and it may grow to half time or more, or it may stay at that level.
Yeah, I love the idea of hitting the ground running. No one has the time or the money or the patience to, hire these days and even find the talent, much less give them the runway needed to deliver the results they expect. So what a great way to to kind of turbo boost, a marketing plan. And that's kind of what I do with social. An immediate impact
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
is kind of what's needed versus a 6 or 12 month ramp up with a typical hire. Well, I think we covered a few bases. How are you doing personally? Surviving the Delta wave? Well, you keeping busy around Boston? I see. What else do you have on the radar for the next few weeks or month?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. My unfortunately, my daughter's events business, the work she was doing collapsed because no one was doing events. But she's now on to other things. And my wife, I had been working from home anyway.
Right.
Uh, the big change was suddenly I had a wife, a daughter, and a dog here too. So it was much busier, which was great. And the dog has connected it to our neighbors much more. So while some people had, really isolating experiences from COVID, we've had experience of connecting with many more people because of the pup.
I
And
love it. Love it. We'll have to come down to Newton, visit the puppy. I'll bring some treats and we'll grab coffee. And I will check out the presentation on Wednesday with the New England Marketing Institute. That looks fabulous. So,
yeah,
so thanks so much, Louis. Thanks for chatting as always. And I'll see you around the Boston campus.
I hope so, Evan. It's always great talking with you.
Okay. Take care, sir.
All right, take care. You
Bye.
too. Bye.